This isn't me. I don't normally do this.
This isn't what I normally do. Oh, stop. Will this be our podcast? It literally looks like Pillow Talk. My shoulders are the entire size of your torso. Oh, and I'm on your phone. I guess like it does kind of work, huh?
Yeah.
This will be the view. I think it looks pretty good up there from here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh.
Gotten any other questions?
No questions.
Is it funsies making your mustache like that?
I mean, no, and you like eat it half the time because you get stuff in your mouth and like it's terrible.
At most.
She's really nice.
Thanks.
And I think that's all a lot of people really need to be. And so
I value our communication skills.
yeah.
I think we're really great at communicating with each other.
Mm-hmm. Because everyone has disagreements, and women and men talk way different, and they feel the same emotions, but they feel them differently and to different degrees. And we want different things out of conversations. So just recognize that you're going to have miscommunications and you're not going to agree on things, and that's okay. And to just realize like you're both coming from a place of, I really care about this person. I'm not trying to hurt this person. I want what's best for both of us. And that'll help you out. Because if you're going from a defensive angle, you might take things way wrong. You're like, I'm obviously not trying to hurt you, because that's counterproductive to the discussion. So always keep communicating and just realize you're going to say stuff that's wrong to him. He's going to say stuff that's wrong to you. Just say, hey, this is how I would like to deal with it. Please, acknowledge that this is how I like to deal with it.
What's up, cuz? What if you're not good at communicating because of past trauma?
You've literally got two options. You die alone or you deal with it.
You gotta learn how to communicate, my love.
There's no, get out of jail free.
I was the same way too. Like, you gotta just remind yourself, like, you don't want that person treating you a certain way because of their past also, like, you have to remind yourself, like, this is a different person, like, this isn't my ex. Mm-hmm. And I have to give them a fair chance, and just be like open about it. Like, just be like, I react this way because of this in the past, or like as long as you're like truthful with them, like, don't hide anything.
I really like what you said there, where you said, okay, I react like this because of my past. It's just because something has happened and there's a reason for it and you might justify it, doesn't mean you have to bring that on to the next scenario.
Yeah, but sometimes it's hard because, like, you'll react that way out of impulse, and then that's why you got to communicate with them later, like, oh, like, I'm sorry, like, I responded this way, like, this is why I responded this way, not using it as an excuse. I'm just telling you why I do this, and then it's like, then you can work on how to not react like that in the future.
And I mean, here's another example of how like men and women are different. Like, a guy will hear that and just be like, that doesn't matter, and so that might hurt your feelings. But then you just have to communicate. It's like, look, I just want you to understand, but I need an actionable plan to get out of that, right? So if you get triggered by saying something, if you say, hey, I've explained to you why it triggers me, and I'm just going to let you know that in the future, if this does happen, I would like if it was handled like this, So if somebody says something, you say, hey, it really gets me in a heated mood, and sometimes it would be easier for me, and I would really appreciate it if I could leave the room for 30 minutes and come back, because it's like I get really heated and I bring up something in the past and I don't want to put it out on you. Give me space, And some people will be like, I really just want you to come close to me and hold me, right? There's different types of people who are like, they would just run away every time. So if you need to leave to cool down, your traumas are going to make you think, okay, he's abandoning me. And really, they might just need time to cool down because their woman might have run at them and kept getting at them any room they left, right? So everyone has traumas, everyone has past relationships, and it's good to just say, hey, this is why it happens, and this is something that would really help me, and I would appreciate it if you'd let me have that space, and I'm going to work on coming to a middle ground with you and understanding what you want, but for the next time, could we come at it like this, right? So everyone's arguments are going to be different. The traumas, I think if you define them as traumas, are going to hurt your outcomes. Because if you think of them as traumas, you might internalize them as something that cannot change about you. If you think of them as lessons I've learned that I can work on and build upon and learn new lessons towards, you're going to be better off. But to say, oh, I have traumas, I can't talk well, I don't know how old you are.
She's 24.
So you're 24? Did you have like 4 boyfriends and 2 of them were bad and like one yelled at you once? Like, you're so young.
No, that does not matter. I've had really bad relationships though when I was younger
I know.
too.
I'm just saying, like, maybe it's best not to categorize something as a trauma, even if it is, just to move past it.
No, they like looking at it as a lesson and not as a trauma.
Yeah, traumas can be like scars, and you can consider them scars, but it's going to hold you back. Just say, hey, this is a lesson I learned that I don't like it when I'm treated this way, and I would appreciate being treated in another way. But then also realize if you're going to be a hard ass all the time, be like, well, if it was the right guy, I would treat them right. Well, then you're not going to find the right guy because they're not going to be disrespected like that. That's just not how you would want to treat your future partner. So I'd also think of it like that is, what would you treat the partner you would want to be with like, and how would they treat you? And aim towards that goal and not say, I'm going to treat you like my ex to guard myself from the relationship I want. Say, I want my relationship to look like this. I want it to be trusting. I want it to be open. I don't want to be fearful, and things are going to be a lot easier for you. Yeah, communication's really hard. I definitely struggle with it. I do engineering, so I'm like really kind of a bit awkward when it comes to talking to people, and can be very logical to a fault. You know, some people don't really like that. But you just have to get better, right? Oh, thanks, Bree. It's like, I can't read half of it. It's just like a bunch of emojis. I'm like, thanks, Rainbow Alien number 2. Yeah, and here's one thing I learned about communications between like the more masculine and feminine communications is like feminine communication is to express how I'm feeling and have the other person understand what you're feeling. And that's how you feel heard. Where a more masculine sense of communication is like, here's the problem and here's a solution. And if you're not targeting a solution, it sounds like a fight. It sounds like an argument. Because when men talk about feelings, like they're about to throw down, you know, it's like they're getting angry. And so sometimes that kind of it feels like mental judo. It feels like you're really in a fight. When you're really just trying to express your emotions, but the guy's like, the emotions don't fix the problem. And so both of you are coming at, oh, I'm not being heard on both sides, right? So that's just something to understand, right? I can't say what you mean when you say, I don't want to upset anyone whenever you do an argument starts. I don't understand. Is there any way you could elaborate on that? Maybe we could have a further discussion. Do you get it, babe?
I don't want to upset anyone. I think she's just like saying like she thinks like maybe when she expresses her feelings and stuff, it normally upsets the person, so then she would rather just avoid it.
I do disagree with someone. It starts an argument. Is this better? If you disagree with something, you should definitely state the disagreement, but you should definitely pick your battles, right? So there's
that too. Yeah, sometimes we went through this like phase where like I would be upset about something and I would have to decide whether or not if I wanted to bring it up or not. And then like he could see it on my face, and then he'd be like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Nothing." And then I would like never bring it up. But then if I stay mad about it, then it's like I need to just bring it up because it's like
it's bringing the whole mood down. You know?
Yeah.
And your partner should definitely know when something's wrong, and like it's gonna be something that is wrong. You know, you're gonna be not the best partner to them for a while, and so when you do finally bring it up, it's gonna be a bigger issue. If you bring things up right away and say, hey, you know, this made me feel this way.
I like that, Norma. Yeah, you like go to your own space and then you can like talk about it more calmly. Like, yeah, sometimes it's good to not react like right away, like when your emotions are like all high and you don't even know. But then sometimes too, I was like, I'll sit there and overthink something, and I'll sit there and overthink it. And I could have just brought it up to him, and then it would have been squashed, because then it would have been like, he would have just explained it instead of me overthinking like all these things are happening and they're not. You know what I mean? And
then again, really remember when you're saying I do a disagreement and it starts an argument, I'm not going to say I'm 100% sure, but I'm 90% certain what you do is you say, I didn't feel good when you did this. This really upset me when this happened. Or it made me real sad when this happened, but you're not giving any solution to say, hey, I would really appreciate if the next time you did this, you could come at it in another way. You know, it's like, I really didn't like when you complimented this person. It's like, well, why couldn't I compliment that person? That's just a normal person. Obviously, I'm interested in you. So basically, it sounds to the guy like you don't have faith in him. You don't trust him. But it's not that you don't have faith in him and that you don't trust him. You just didn't feel good about it. And says, hey, when you complimented them, it made me feel bad. I would really appreciate it if you came across it in this way. Maybe you complimented them in this way, or if you pulled me into the room, or, you know, if there was something about an interaction that you really didn't enjoy, you don't have to explain why. You don't really have to explain how it made you feel either. You could just say, hey, it would really make me happy if you could do it in this way. And if they really don't agree, that goes into sometimes you're just not going to agree on things, and you do have to pick your battles. Some things are just ridiculous, you know, that people request of you, and they might just say no, and you have to say, is it worth me being with someone who doesn't want to do that with me? And then you can choose your partner from there. Like, there are some things the guy's just like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to text girls on Instagram. I'm going to heart them. If that's something you really can't handle, that's where bringing these conversations up early is a good thing, because it helps you vet your partner.
She wants to know, because she says, she'll usually say, I wish you understood where I'm coming from.
That is the most aggravating statement. I would be so furious if you brought that up in an argument, because it says nothing. It's a lot of words that's irritating, and you're probably crying or emotional. And like, he's like, what the hell did I do? I didn't do anything. I'm trying to understand you. You're giving no solutions and no problems. You just don't feel good. I don't fix your feelings. I'm an adult. You're an adult. You're in control of your own emotions. I can't help you. So it's not that it's a wrong saying if you're talking to other women. It's a problem if you're talking to your masculine partner. It doesn't have to be a man, but if they're a masculine partner.
This is a huge issue, y'all. I understand. It took us a little bit to figure this out, how differently we communicate.
Yeah, it literally doesn't have to be a man. It's your masculine partner. If you're the feminine person and you bring that up, your masculine partner is going to say you have no problem you've addressed and no potential solution for us to talk through. It's a bunch of nonsense and garbage, and it's trash, and now my day's ruined because it's going to be 2 hours of us arguing over this, and you're going to be upset.
So, like, what's the other thing that they say instead of that?
Okay, so go up to what you said again, just so I can quote it.
I wish you
understand where I'm coming from. They're not gonna explain it. And the best way is to say, when you did insert action that upset you, I felt like insert feeling. I would appreciate
next time, can you do this?
If next time you could do this, because it would make me feel really happy. So now you have, I felt a way, why you felt a way, what they could do differently, and what them doing something differently would do for you. So now you've got a whole equation. It's a mathematics system. A masculine energy person will go up and say, I can fix that because it's something I can actively do. Don't care if they don't understand the feeling, because what you're trying to do is have them feel how you feel to understand you and to feel heard. You have to realize you will not feel heard in the same way they are capable of hearing you.
So she's asking what if she does that, but then they're just saying, like, you're just feeling that way because of your past stuff, like, not because of me now.
I would argue maybe you are, you know, and that's the thing, is you literally can't change somebody else. You can only change yourself. Because, babe, you've gone through my phone a couple times and stressed yourself out. I cannot make you trust me more. I can't. There's a lot of stuff that is, you need to work on yourself, and that's it. And you might be frustrating them because you are actively proving their point, and they're frustrated that you're not seeing it. And you might have the trauma or justification or the knowledge that this has happened to you in the past, but you can't bring that into the next thing. And again, you trying to make them feel like you is just going to frustrate them. You literally need to have, this is an action that I would like. And if they say, look, this action isn't something I'm going to do. Because, like, if she went to me and said, any female on your phone, anyone, all of them must go, no, that's not going to happen. If there's anyone in particular and there's a real reason for it, we'll talk, and have. But if it's just like all women on your phone must go, there can't be, you can't have one friend that's a female because in my past this has happened, or any reason, or just because you don't feel good and you're like, it's not because of my past, it's right now, this happened. It's like, look, that's not okay. You can't come at me like that. You have traumas to work through. So the argument's done because there's no action step that they're going to follow through with. And that's up to you to say, I'm not going to be with somebody who doesn't block every woman in their phone. You can choose to do that because you're an adult. I wouldn't recommend it. I would say you should definitely work on yourself instead, but you could say, no, block them or we're done. But I wouldn't do that.
My boyfriend tells me I'm just being emotional and not thinking about things logically.
Well, you are, and that's fine. That's feminine, and that's the thing that a lot of men need to understand too. Especially if you have like a younger boyfriend, in their early 20s, mid 20s, they're not going to understand that. Or if you've had a boyfriend and they're older, say they're in their 30s, but they haven't been with a girl who's open to communicate with them and open to understand from their point of view that your emotions don't mix with my logic, it's easier once you tell them, it's like, look, I think emotionally, you think logically, we are going to communicate different, and that's okay. And you have to be able to move forward with that, and they have to understand it from you, because he's right. You're thinking totally emotionally. And you're going to, and you should, because you're supposed to be feminine and friendly and emotional and good at handling people and children. That's like what you're supposed to want to do. And the guy is supposed to be very logical. If something hits the fan, they need to fix it. They need to be tactical. They can't let emotions get in the way. If your house is burning down, you need to save the kids and the family and not be like, oh, I'm so sad. My house is burning. You're like, I have to get things done now. So our brains are literally wired differently, and he needs to understand yours is made to wire on emotional level. And then you kind of have to work together from that point. Yeah, and it's, I would say it's masculine and feminine, and it's like 100% masculine guy needs 100% feminine woman, right? Because they're going to make all of the decisions and the woman needs to jump on board. If you get a 50% masculine guy, you need to get a 50% masculine woman. And that means they're both building the sheds together. They both work on the cars together. They both do the dishes together. That's a 50-50 partnership, and that works. And I would say we're closer to an 80-20 because she still does work, and socializes and does her own things. But for the most part, she jumps on board and I'll fix this stuff, and take the trash out and do the heavy lifting and things like that. So you have to say, what is my relationship split going to be? It's going to be a 50-50. It's going to be 100-0, the housewife and quarterback type vibe, and just kind of go from there. Yeah. Oh, 24. Yeah, 24 is really young. When I was 24, look, how would I know? And here's the thing too, modern society really teaches you like that 50-50 split. And it doesn't teach you that some people want to be feminine and some people want to be masculine, and a lot of people are predisposed at birth to what they want to be. And that's not all people. I know very masculine women, I know very feminine men, right? But a lot of folks are predestined to act a certain way. I treated every woman I ever knew as how a guy would think, that people are exactly the same, but there are so many hormones in humans, right, that makes brains tick the way they do. So by getting older, you kind of realize these differences. You also have to acknowledge that most men don't get a lot of game. They don't get a lot of attempts to really have communicative abilities with lots of women, right? So if they don't understand where you're coming from, that might just be because they don't have a lot of experience with it, and that's okay.
What if your baby daddy is toxic and you can't get them to understand to fall back? Ooh, we might need more details by that.
I mean, there's a whole thing there.
Jackie.
There's like a lot to be said if they're like, are they really toxic? There are definitely really toxic ones. How are they being toxic? Can the court help with that? Are you contributing to the toxin? Like, there's so much with that statement that is very specific to each relationship.
Restraining order, co-parenting can be done without being in each other's lives.
Yeah, there's so much specific there that it makes it hard to get into. Like, we come from a kind of strange situation compared to most. So we have some insight, but
He's not really involved.
yeah, I think we lucked out in that department. But it's a lot to navigate, and something I would say, like, it would be good to us to talk to you and understand your situation and talk on an open forum and learn more people, so we can actually get the experience to give you real advice. Because we can give you some advice, but it might not be the best.
He tries to get back with you. Is that what you mean?
Okay, so here's the classic case of you already had a kid with him, and then you went and had a second kid with the same guy. So there's definitely a ton of introspection you need to do on your selection process. Because if you didn't realize after a whole ass kid twice, then I don't know what can teach you, right? So hopefully these words kind of help you. And then also just realize you're kind of making it more difficult for you to get future relationships, because now you have this person that you're calling toxic to everybody right now, which is fine. You're welcome to. This is a form of openness. You're not going to be judged for that. But you're calling your ex toxic. You had 2 children with this man. What is the next guy who comes into your life going to think about your loyalty in your situation? You have to think of it from a guy's logical perspective. Now I have to come into your life, give my resources to you and 2 children. You've got a toxic ex that you will hook up with again because you've already had 2 children with them. So you've proven you're going to do it multiple times. You might not be over this person. You know, there's so much there.
Because she's asking, because she's not with him, and she's saying, like, for future relationships, like, he tries to, like, he gets, like threatening whenever she's, like, dating somebody because he wants to be with her, but she doesn't want to be with him.
Yeah, so I would go into this. How many relationships are you really realistically getting into? Are you hooking up with guys? Like, are you meeting them at clubs? Like, where are you finding these people? Are you actually vetting them on the content of their character? Are they interested in being with you? Are they just trying to hook up? Because I'm going to let you know now, you've got 2 kids with a guy who's extraordinarily jealous, and the guys that are getting with you know this. Why do they want you? What are you actually putting out into the world for them? I don't know you. I can't say if you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, but you have to come from a place of, like, I'm going to be a mother first. The right guy will really appreciate you for actually caring about your children first. If you're hooking up with guys at bars and bring them home to your children, that's not going to look good to the right guy, because they know if those were going to be his stepchildren, aka his children, that's not acceptable.
No hookups. I'm trying to be in a relationship, but take my time since I have my kids.
And so there's another thing too, right? You gave a guy 2 children, and now you're going to go to someone else and make them wait and make them prove themselves. How are you going to prove yourself? And that's where it really comes into being fit, friendly, feminine, and agreeable. So you need to try to work out, make sure you're eating right. If you're saying you're having trouble gaining weight and you want to gain the proper weight, try to work on your diet. The right guy will appreciate that you're feeding what will be, his stepchildren. Because remember, look at the relationship you want. You want a stepdad that's going to care for your children and in your family, your unit. You're going to want to eat well and be very nice, be very agreeable. Don't necessarily make them wait, but also don't bring them over. Have very strict boundaries on what will happen with the kid, but know that they need to be allowed to come in and teach the children, right? If I couldn't say anything to Chloe and she could run rampant and she didn't have to get good grades, that wouldn't fly with me. I wouldn't do that. But she allows me to discipline her in a way, and we talk about that is like, you must do your homework. You must do these things. And this is how it's going to be done, or it's not going to work, right? They're not just going to be your children in the future. So really picture that and really be the best person you can be. Really work on your communication, because you're coming from a deficit. You have a lot of baggage someone else has to come in and claim, which you can't turn back the clock and do it differently. So there's that option. I don't know the baby daddy. If he's really, really bad, That's one thing. Or is it something that, is this the best person you could get? And maybe you learning better communication skills with them will help you in the long run. Because maybe that is the case. Maybe he made a mistake. Maybe he needs to man up. But here's an example, right? If you've got a guy and you're like, he's such a deadbeat husband and he just sits on the couch and plays video games all day. It's like, well, if he comes back from a hard day of work and he's paying bills and you jump on his ass to go do things and he's like just sick of you just berating him. If you came up to him and said, I would really like it if we could spend some time together, it'd really make me feel good. It's like you've got so much potential. You're wasting so much time on that game. And I just see you being so much better if we could do these kind of things together. You're stroking their ego, making them feel good about themselves. And who do they want to spend time with? They want to spend time with people who make them feel good about themselves. And that's supposed to be you. You're supposed to be their best cheerleader. So maybe that's it, right? If you're coming at them with all the problems, like you're screwing up, he's going to find someone else who's not going to treat him that way, for sure. So it could be a two-sided thing. We don't know your story. But if that resonates with you, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
It's so hard too. It's like, because you don't know everyone's like.
Oh, there's so many things. Yeah, there's so many, and that's what's good about talking more and like being open. And Rand, I really appreciate you taking all this time and going into it and explaining, because it makes the story easier for other people. And we can just give a little bit of insight from. I'm like giving you the male point of view. She's really good at the female point of view. If you want to ask advice on how someone like her gets a 6-figure guy who's gonna, willing to change himself in ways to be the best person for a family, then that's how you can do it.
Oh yeah, he cheated on her. That's why she left him.
Okay, he cheated on you, and there's a weird thing, right? If a woman cheats in society, everyone's like, he was probably a deadbeat, he's a loser, Kim K breaks up and Kanye is crazy, there's a lot of that in society. Were you just giving him a ton of shit all the time? Or were you actually going up and saying, hey, I really appreciate everything you're doing for me, and you're staying fit? Because it's hard, you had 2 kids, it's a lot of stuff to go through. I wasn't fit. I was 250 pounds and she fell for me, and I'm very grateful. And she didn't tell me to lose weight. I wanted to lose weight because I want to be my best person for my family unit, right? And that's what you can do for men. If you really treat them with respect and are very kind and really push them to be their best self by saying, like, this is what I want from you. If you're always saying you're messing up, he's going to find a girl who's not going to say that. And he's like, I have proof I'm not messing up. I got 10 other chicks on the side. And that's what you're going to push him to. So is that something you did to him? I don't know. And I'm not going to say he's justified in cheating, but I'm going to say there's sometimes, like you may have noticed earlier. I don't know if he started after the second child or if this had been, maybe you had the first kid and he was out doing stuff. Like, do you know? Because we also know people who are like that. That have just not been loyal and that you shouldn't be with. And there's more than one sign. Did you actually break up because he was cheating? Or did you break up because he's the type of person who isn't going to give you and your family himself? Is he not going to pay bills? Is he not going to take out trash? Is he not going to be the man and fix the car? Is he not going to protect you?
But I didn't hear him once say that a female has to be totally submissive.
No, never.
So that's kind of putting words in his mouth.
Yeah. No, I even said earlier, if you want to be 100% masculine guy, you want the top dude, alpha to a T, has the Bugattis and the mansions and a business that's really successful, then you need to be 100% feminine to make that work. Or your relationship can be that 50-50, where you're both working on the shed together, right? Like the homesteaders, where, everyone knows how to use the tools. Everyone can fix the cars and trucks. I've seen those as well, and those are wonderful people.
You'll have to back up your statements. You can't just say it's a red flag and then that's it. Or like say he said one thing and he didn't. So like when y'all are like giving like valid comments, then like we will gladly like go through that like more deeply. Like if there's something he said specifically that's making y'all like question something, go for it. Like say something about it. But just saying stuff like, ooh, that's a red flag, like that's literally not insightful to the conversation at all. Also, I'm not doing song requests, sorry.
And babe, that's one of the things I love most about you. Like, you're just so kind and open-minded, and you listen so well. Like, these are the feminine qualities that I appreciate in our relationship. And I just want you to know that. I'm really grateful
Thanks, baby.
for you. And
Yeah, that person's right. They're taking it to heart because they're
Yeah.
he's talking facts.
yeah, and some things might not relate to you, and you can't take them personally. Some relationships are different than you. This is if we say anything that strikes a chord with you, and you can say, "Hey, this is my relationship. This is how I do things." I'm actually making life harder for my partner. Or is your partner actually toxic and actually not going to be the man who's going to stand up for you and your children? Which they might be. We don't know your situation. So we're just giving you different points of view, and to realize every relationship is different.
Being submissive to a good man isn't a bad thing.
Wow, that's Daisy, that is a great comment. Can you say that louder so they can hear it in a great voice?
Does he consider your daughter as his?
Yeah. But I can't legally. So there's the whole thing. It's a strange relationship, and it's definitely a difficult
hopefully
one
one
to
day
navigate.
legally, yes, he'll be able to adopt her.
Yeah, I taught her how to read and write and do math,
Hit the
and
subscribe right
it's
here.
really great.
It's a snazzy stash.
Yeah, so actually there's something I've noticed. Can you go scroll up a little bit? You said being submissive to the right type of man who deserves it. Now here's the problem. When you're saying being submissive to the right type of man, that's correct. But if you say being submissive when they're the right type of man, now you've got an issue. Because the right type of man won't like you if you're not agreeable and friendly from the get-go. If you come out the gate, I'm hardened and I'm tough and I'm not going to take no shit, and only when the right guy comes I'm going to be feminine, that's not going to be cool. Like, what if a guy who's the right type of guy to be submissive to was like, no, the woman takes me on a date and I wear dresses until I find the right type of woman to be strong for. You're not going to date the guy in the dress, right? So that's kind of a dramatic example, but it just goes into saying you really need to be the type of person you want to be with the partner you want to be with. And you don't have to get with 100 people. You can be very picky in the vetting process.
You can be yourself in a relationship. He never said that.
Yeah, I literally said there's relationships that are 50-50, and you have to determine based on your relationship what you want out of something. Yeah.
Who wants someone that's not agreeable?
Who wants to argue with their partner all day? Babe, do you want to argue all day?
No,
No,
I definitely don't.
Who wants that?
And I'm still
That's ridiculous.
100% myself.
Yeah, she does whatever she wants.
There aren't a lot of women that think very openly. I like that.
A lot of people do. And I think that's the misconception. A lot of people have been told a lot of nonsense for a long time. If you want to be, like, disagreeable and mean, I just don't think you're going to have a great relationship regardless. You're not going to find a guy who wants to take it. Because guys don't like to fight all day.
Who wants to fight all day?
Who
though?
wants
That's
to
the thing
fight all
that's
day?
that's why it's such a silly argument. Like,
Yeah.
no, you have to be nice. How dare. So regardless of what women feel, she should just agree with the man.
I didn't know if you wanted to elaborate first, then I can jump in.
Oh,
'Cause you
I
were saying
mean,
something.
that's just not like what we're, I don't know. That's like very, that's what everyone says when you talk about being like agreeable. And I don't know how to like argue it.
Okay, so you said you should just agree with the man regardless of how you feel. Okay. If you don't want to do a job, like if your boss says do the paperwork today and you're a clerical assistant and you really don't feel like doing the paperwork, do you get to not do it? Like, there are certain responsibilities that you have in your relationship that are different for every relationship. And if you said, my responsibilities are X, and 80% of the times I will handle these responsibilities, and yours are Y.
He's giving you an example.
Yeah.
That I don't think we're gonna be able to talk
Okay.
to this person because
Yeah,
they're very one-sided.
They might be. So here's an example. Are you going to change the tires on the car? Is it going to be 50-50? No one's the boss. You have different responsibilities. Maybe I could have said coworker, right? If you're a clerical assistant and you do paperwork, the janitor says, mop the floor. You say, no, I'm not mopping the floor. You do the paperwork. Then you say, no, I'm not doing the paperwork. I'm mopping the floor today. That's not how it works. You have things to do. If I'm going to be changing every tire, 100% of all tires ever, that's how our relationship is built, then she's going to do things that she's going to do exclusively. And then there are tasks that we agree to do together, because we have a partnership that's open to communicate. And some days I'm not going to be in a good mood, or I'm going to be injured. And other days she's not going to be in a good mood or injured, and I'm going to pick up the slack, because we have a relationship that's based on communication and mutual moving forward. And we're not going to fight about that. We're going to truly set boundaries and say, these are what I want out of a relationship. And you do not have to, and I want to make this very clear, you do not have to get in a relationship with anybody ever. You can be alone, you can do that, and that's fine. And you can be really great and happy, and that's fine if that's for you. But if you want a partnership, you have to say, if my guy is going to do all of the tires on the car, I'm going to do all of the dishes, as an example. And you have to follow through. So there are certain things you don't get to make decisions on, and certain things he doesn't get to make decisions on. It is not his way or the highway. You talk together, and you work together, and you say, this is what I'm in charge of, and we will handle it this way, and you handle that. And that's it. And there's no arguing. And that's where being agreeable comes into place. Are you going to do these things, and I do those? And you get to pick your partner on that. Because some guys are like, I will never, ever touch a dish ever or cook ever. And you might be like, that's not the guy I want. Don't get with them. Simple enough. There's a lot of those people. I mean, and that's great. We need those kind of comments, you know. Mm-hmm. I would love if we could get people live to come on and complain, because it just shows really what a lot of people think.
People will. People will come on. I've seen it.
It's cool. It would be great to have their opinions on and vocalize, because, like, you can also look at how their relationships are going, because some people might have, like, they think this way, but their relationships don't look good. Like, they're single, or they fight a lot, or, you know, there's so many issues. And it's like, why would we take your advice on how a good relationship should be when we have a good relationship and this is how it's set up? You know, and our relationship is different than everybody's.
Yeah.
You know, so it's set your own boundaries, but work together. And a masculine man will want a feminine woman, and that's it. Everyone should do the relationship the way they want. Absolutely. Now, you also have to set expectations for what you're going to get, right? So if you want to be, like, really argumentative, and you're like, I want my relationship where I'm really argumentative and really violent, and every time I want something, I get it, and then I get everything in the world, right? Like, that's probably just won't happen, right? So you also have to add some amount of realism. So be reasonable, right? Like,
did I call my family a mini family?
They're short. We call them a mini family because they're all so short.
Everyone interacts differently. Everyone loves differently.
Yeah.
Love languages are different. Definitely.
Absolutely agree on that. Everyone is different.
Hey, Keely. Yeah, we're doing a movie night. We're doing it for subscribers only on TikTok. We're going to be watching it on Discord here in 40 minutes. Yeah, right now we're doing relationship advice.
Yeah.
He helped her during her girls being done. Oh, yeah. As an example. Always help.
Yeah, always help each other.
But why did he say that a woman having children is a deficit?
It is. It factually is. There's nothing you can do to outdo that. If you come from a point and you say, I have 2 children with other guys, or any amount of children with other guys.
Wow.
That's going to be more difficult for you to date. And I don't even comprehend how that's difficult to understand.
What's like the definition of a deficit?
It means you're starting from behind, right? So it's like if there's a race and half the people were allowed to go for 10 seconds before you, and then you were allowed to start, that's a deficit. So you're coming from behind. It's more difficult.
Yeah, it is more difficult. That literally is more difficult.
It's more difficult. And it's more difficult from choices that hopefully you made that weren't the right decision. And that happens. People do make mistakes. You know,
Is it the same for men with children?
it depends. Is the man capable of caring for all the children? You know, and that's the thing about most men and most women, not everybody. And I'm going to state not everybody, but most, which means over 50%. So it doesn't even need to be 90% most, but it's closer to that. It's not that they're a mistake. It's just a guy doesn't want it.
I definitely did not plan on Chloe. That's for
guy
gosh
doesn't want it.
darn sure.
Yeah.
She was a huge oopsie.
And Phyllis, you say usually you wouldn't date a man with children, and that's totally fine. You know, it's totally fine.
We're definitely not like
Yeah.
trying to like put people down or anything.
No, we
like,
want people to
there
be
were
their best
people
selves.
with like genuine questions. Like, you know, she had genuine concerns because she has 2 kids and baby daddy drama. So like that is like baggage you're carrying into a next relationship.
Yeah.
So like someone, I mean, you don't even have children and you're taking offense to it. I would just try to think like, just be a little more open-minded about the conversation. And then like he said, it's like literally we're not talking about every single person on the world because like it's just impossible. Like we can't talk for everybody.
Yeah, all we can say is like a numbers game, right? It's what are the odds? So let's say you're a guy with children, right? It means you were selected by somebody else to have children.
Well,
so
then there you go. So you're saying
good.
you made good choices, then that would mean people who had kids before, then that's a deficit.
That's not the best choice for them. You know, it's
So then we're agreeing on it.
yeah. There's courts that you have to deal with that most people wouldn't have to deal with. You know, there's a whole lot that goes into it, right? And then there's also, you know, and I'm going to tell you from a man's perspective, if you have a child before the guy you get with, at least initially, you're going to be like,
No, she's off work, Ash.
this is somebody who doesn't make the greatest decisions. And you're going to have to see, am I willing to even put myself in a position to know this woman and see if they're good with that child, how their interactions are with another man who may or may not be in the picture. You know, how did they get themselves in that situation? Is it worth it? What if they brought home diseases? You know, there's so many things to consider in somebody's choices, where if you had someone who's like, I've been with 2 partners, they were serious relationships, nothing happened, we were tested before, after, we were very loyal the whole time, it was an amicable split, that's going to be I'm not thinking about what happened with this other person, you know, and that's just me. And there's a lot of people who think that. You know, it's like if you get a used car, a new car, there's different concerns.
Nice, Kenny. Thank you for being open-minded.
Yeah. And here's an example, right? If I get a used car, I have to actually inspect the engine. Is the engine broken? Like, did they run it really hard? Was it light miles? Did it have 60,000 miles? Does it have 300,000 miles? With a new car, it's new. I know what's going to come with the territory.
Anybody. So I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what Stockholm Syndrome is.
It's when someone kidnaps you and you fall in love with your kidnapper.
Oh.
Or are they trying to say you're Stockholm because you're in a happy relationship?
Do y'all do these often? We're going to start to.
Yeah, I would really like if we did. I think there's so much to understand about relationships. And I think we come from a very specific place where she was a young single mom. And something that she did really great is she didn't ask for handouts. She wasn't hardened. She wasn't tough. She didn't fight a lot. You know, it was very peaceful to be with her. And then she also had reasonable expectations. I was 200, and when we met, 230, 220. And I was under 6 foot tall. I was a good earner, but she didn't know that. We slept on the floor together. You know, so she came from a place where it's like, I'm willing to find somebody who loves me and respects me and wants what's best for me and my child. It wasn't like she was looking for, okay, now I've had a kid, now I need a guy who's 6 foot tall with a 6-pack and a 6-figure job, and he's going to be on my page because I have a kid and I need to be taken care of better than someone without a kid, and he's going to have more responsibilities. Who wants to sign up for that? I signed up for her, who who came in with, I just want someone to love and appreciate me, and I want someone I can respect and look up to and live with that will have my back and do what I can, and we look out for each other. And that's something that's really beautiful about our relationship and something I really respected about her. And that's how you have to act, especially if you're coming from behind. And by coming from behind, it means like, I started with a child. I started with baggage. I know I'm starting with baggage. I know I have things that are difficult to work through. So I'm going to be the best possible version of myself for them. And we're not perfect. Neither of us were perfect. And we didn't have great communication skills, but we work at it every time we talk. So that's what we just want for everybody, is to be the best version of themselves and to grow with your partner. Don't look for the final boss and say, that's what I want first. Be like, I want to be my final boss. I want to be the best version of myself. And I want to attract the partner that I envision in my head, right? By being the person that you would to them. They'll show up. Real recognize real. If they don't like stuff, actually comment more. That makes it more interesting.
Yeah, I was actually going to say for like these kinds of talks, people who argue with us, I wouldn't necessarily mute them right away unless they're being like really disrespectful.
Yeah.
Because we like to have the like conversation and like argument and stuff. But
Yeah. And argument doesn't have to be a bad thing. Argument has a bad rap, you know. Some things that are arguments are just discussions.
Vane came in a little late, and she said most annoying thing is trying to communicate feelings and having them think it's an argument.
That goes back into the men versus women thing, or rather the masculine versus feminine discussions. We don't care about your feelings. Not that we don't care that you have them, but like we don't acknowledge and feel feelings the same. You need to bring up problems and solutions. You can say how that impacted your feelings, which is fine, but if you don't have those two things in the equation, it literally sounds like an argument. Because if guys come into a conversation and you're not attempting to come to a solution, they're going to fight. They fight. Men have fought for thousands of years with like swords and things, you know? Like they straight up ended the bloodlines, you know? So when you talk just about emotions and you don't have a problem and a solution, that doesn't come off right. It comes off as a fight, but they're not trying to fight the person they love and want to work with. So you're not offering them a solution. And that's the feminine and masculine mind. And you might have to say, hey, I'm talking about emotions because I'm emotional. Can you please just listen to me and like make me feel a little better by insert what to do. Say, by holding me, hugging me, talking to me like this, I would really appreciate it. Because when she wants me to like help her feel better, I'm like, babe, I literally don't know what to do. I can get you a snack, I can like cuddle, you know, but I don't know the action. So it'll really help them help your feelings.
So I'm going to give you an example because we keep going back to the whole like, if she doesn't agree with you, then like, it's not about like you having to agree with what your partner wants 100% of the time. There's an instance where I'm trying to think of that time with Minnie where you were kind of he was being like one way with Minnie, and then I had to pull him aside and be like, hey, like, you know, like I know you're trying to mean well, but I would appreciate it if you would like tell it to her this way instead of the way that you were doing it. And he listened to me, agreed, and then applies it now for the future.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously we're not saying you can't have an opinion, you can't have feelings, you can't think how you want to think.
Yes.
It's literally like agreeable. It doesn't have to be a negative word.
Yeah.
Like, at all.